We're on to the Tech Talk Show this Wednesday afternoon. So, in the last edition of the show, we did talk about how to choose services to use on Azure. And on today's episode of the show, we're going to be looking at how to learn, for those who are interested in learning Microsoft Azure. A number of people have been asking that, if I want to build a career in cloud computing, so how do I get started? How do I learn Microsoft Azure? So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, learning Microsoft Azure, how to start. So that's the topic for today. So many people want to learn about Azure, but they really don't know where to start. I like to ask people first, those who are interested in cloud computing, who wants to build a career in cloud computing. So the number one thing I like to ask them is, why did they really want to learn Azure, or why are they looking to learn about cloud computing? Many people like to think that IT generally is get rich quick kind of field, but it truly isn't. Just like any career, you get to build it over time. So that's the number one question you need to ask yourself: is why do you really want to learn cloud computing? Why Azure? So once you can answer that question, then it's going to make it a lot seamless, for you to build a career in cloud computing. So when people want to build a career in cloud computing, there are a number of certification of choice, that they can choose from. And people that want to learn Microsoft Azure, people want to learn for different reasons. For some people, it might be that there is a particular challenge at work that they are looking to solve. So that's what has driven them to learning about Azure, so that they can learn enough skills, gather enough skills to be able to solve that particular problem, that they're facing at work. And for some other people, it might be for them to get their dream job. They're looking to change job. They're looking to change department. For those who are already working, they don't like what they're, the department that they're currently in. So they're looking to learn something new so that they can move department and perhaps earn a better pay. So that, might be some people's reason for learning Azure. And for others, it might just be, getting themselves ready to take advantage of opportunities in the future. So those are different reasons that people might have, to go into cloud computing. So I've said that, once you're able to identify what the reason for going into cloud computing is, then it's going to make the learning part, that learning curve very easy, for you. So there are ways, of learning Azure. If cloud computing or Microsoft Azure is something that, you're interested in, there are a number of ways of acquiring these skills. One of the ways, to acquire the skills is to attend a training course, on Azure, where you go to classrooms, attend your lectures, and after a period of time, you would have gathered enough skills to, start building solutions on Azure, or start building solutions for your customers on Azure. So that's one way to learn. Another way to learn would be through what is known as certifications. Some people like to acquire certifications. Yes, certification shows, or it proves that you know what you're talking about when it comes to that domain area in which you're certified. So people just choose to write certification. Of course, you need to have gathered the skills before certification. So it's either you've been working in the cloud space for a period of time, or it's something that you've learned, you've done some self-study, and you need some kind of paper to back up your skills so people can trust you that you know what you're talking about when it comes to cloud computing. So people like to also approach it that way as well. But one thing I would like to say with the certification track is that people shouldn't do certification just for the fun of it. People should make sure that they acquire the skills first before the certification. Certification should just give them, the opportunity, that they can then leverage. But a number of time people cheat, with this certifications. So they just look up what is called, they call them DOMs, cram those DOMs, go sit for the exams and come out with flying colors. Whereas, skill wise, they're at zero. So that's not, what IT is about. I mean, people want to give you the opportunity once they know that you can deliver value, once they know that, you really can do, you're good at, that particular thing that you say, you're telling them that you're good at. So the first thing we want to do is making sure that we acquire the skills and then followed by certification. Another part that people take to learn Azure is something I like to tag project-based learning. For some people, they have a project that they're working on, or because they have some basic skills about cloud computing, and someone has called them to ask if they can deliver a particular project. And so they might just want to take it upon themselves and then, dust their cloud computing skills, try to learn, on the job, so to speak. So that's also another way, of learning Azure. So if you're going that route, the task that you have at and the intensity, how it depends on how big the project is. So if the task that you have to solve is something small, then it means that, you're just going to be learning, a little bit. You won't know so much about, that particular technology. But if you're looking at a very big project, a project that is very, highly scoped, then it means that, you're going to have to learn a lot to be able to deliver that project. And most of the time, you won't be working on the project alone. You probably will be working with colleagues. So that's how it also works in the IT industry. We learn to collaborate, to build team, of people to work with. So once you've assembled the team, so you can learn on your own and also learn from the other team members as well. So those are the three different ways that I've identified as ways by which we can learn Microsoft Azure. So I'll just quickly reiterate. I said one is by attending a training course, the traditional training course. Two is by true certification. True certification, people choose to write certification, and once they pass the certification, they would have gone through some self-study materials on their own and then choose to sit for certification. And it proves that now they have the skills to deliver on cloud computing. And the third is project-based learning, where they have a project they are working on, and they get to learn on the project. So it's also important for me to mention the different Azure certifications for those who are interested in Microsoft Azure. So people probably want to know. So if I want to do Microsoft Azure, what are the different certification tracks, or what are the different certification paths, that we have for Azure? So there are a number of certification, for Azure. One of them is something titled, is a certification titled AZ900. AZ900. So another name for that is Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. So you see, the fundamental course is meant for absolute beginner. So there is no prerequisite that you need to have to do this particular course. And this course is not so much about, the core technologies. So the course, this particular course, the Azure Fundamentals, is being put together to build basic skills about cloud computing. So it just, gets you familiar with all the basic cloud computing concept, so that if you're new to Microsoft Azure and you're looking for that very place to start, then the best place to start will be with the AZ900, so which is the Microsoft Azure fundamentals. And we also have the AZ100. AZ100. The AZ100, another name for that is Microsoft Azure Administrator. So for the IT professionals, the administrators, this is a certification that they need to write. So if they already have the skills and they are looking to back up their skill with a certificate, then the option for them becomes this AZ100. Or you're new and you've done the Azure fundamental, and you feel that you are best. The best place for you is to be an administrator and not necessarily, a developer or, a DevOps engineer. So you just want to be an IT professional. So for IT professional, they are looking at this particular certification, Microsoft Azure Administrator. So with the Azure Administrator, they are going to be learning about concepts such as Azure storage, things like Azure networking, Azure security, and so on and so forth. And we have another certification track for the developers, those who are into programming, who are into coding. They are not the networking people. They really don't have much interest in networking. They just like to build solutions. They like to build softwares. So for those people, there is this certification titled Developing Solutions for Microsoft Azure, and the course code for that one is AZ203. AZ203. So this particular certification again is for developers. But developers coming into this space need to at least know about a cloud-based programming language. So they ought to have learned about a supported cloud programming language to be able to build a career here. And next, we also have the AZ300. So the AZ300 is for architects. Those who think that they know the basics already, and now they want to learn a bit more. I think we should take a little break now, and we'll be back in a little bit.
All right, 46 minutes down the hour of one right here in the studios of Last Radio 95.7. It's still the tech show on Last Radio 95.7. And of course, Kazim is still here and he has a guest with him in the studio. But before I go to the guest, Kazim, you're talking about certification of cloud computing and everything. I remember when I was still having the CCNA class and everything, most people were just there for the certification alone. Yeah. The skills itself, they weren't really firm in the skills, but just the certification, because of the pressure that we have in the IT world, you have to get your certification before you can get any job in the IT firm. But really, the certification, does it really say much about the skills you're ready to deliver on the job when you want to go into the IT firms that we have, not only in Nigeria, but even in the world?
This is applicable anywhere in the world. For IT, it really doesn't count. How many certifications you have really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. People want people that can provide solutions to their problem. I mean, if I'm looking to hire someone now who calls himself a DevOps engineer or a cloud administrator, I'm going to put the person to test. So the certification is just there to give you, to make people see that you know these stuff, but you still need to get there and prove your worth. So the first thing should be acquiring the skills first before the certification. So certification is just a secondary thing that, gives you that opportunity for you to sell yourself. I mean, when people know that you have the certification, they want to trust that, you're good at that thing, but you still need to come and show that you can deliver. So the skill comes first before
So
the
does that mean
certification.
that as an IT person, it's not really necessary for me to get the certification first, but if I can get into the company and prove my worth,
Yes.
then probably later I can now go for the certification.
Exactly. For me, for instance, at the last two CBT, so we need, a number of guys now that are going to help with some technical things at the center. So I don't care, how many certifications you've got. So
You just need the
I
skills.
need to make sure that once you're coming on board, you're coming, with a set of values. You're coming to deliver results. You really need to know your onions well, and not necessarily the certification.
All right, we have an intern, one of the interns at the CBT Center right here in LASU. Can you just introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is AZURE Olayinka.
Olayinka. All right, you've been listening to Kazim, what he has been talking about certification in cloud computing and all of that. Do you have any question for him?
Yes.
So please go ahead.
My question is for the learners actually. You said the ways of acquiring Azure learning is through going through a learning process at first. And you said the first learning is AZ900, I guess. So is the AZ900 a form to get, or is just like, how do they get it? Is it like a
I
form?
think I like that question.
Okay, good. The AZ900 is just a course title. You want to acquire a skill. There are learning curves, to acquiring that particular skill. So the AZ900 is just for the beginners. It will introduce a new beginner to cloud computing, into all the basic things that cloud computing has to offer. So it's a course on its own. So it is titled, labeled AZ900. So if you want to have an idea, an overview of what cloud computing is, you've been seeing people doing very well in cloud computing, and you're starting to think, oh, maybe this, I can build a career in cloud computing. So the first thing, that I would want to advise is take a course, a fundamental course that will introduce you, just make you have an idea of what cloud computing is about. And that course that gives you that fundamental knowledge is something known as AZ900, Azure Fundamentals.
Olayinka, do you have more questions?
Yes.
All right, please go
Okay,
ahead.
so I want to ask that how long does it take, like the duration?
Okay.
Like for those learning to get BSc, it's 4 years or
Or 5 years, depending on the school
Yeah.
you attend.
So how long does this one take?
Okay, it will depend on your skill set, and I mentioned it earlier that there are different ways to acquire this particular skill. You might want to go through a self-learning, method where you've given yourself, say 6 months or 3 months, to learn maybe the Azure fundamentals, or you might say, I want to attend a training course. So for the Azure fundamentals, if it's a Microsoft course, most of the Microsoft course, there is something known as, MOC, Microsoft Official Curriculum. So if you're going by the official curriculum, the Azure fundamentals is about a 2 to 3 days course. But if you feel that you have no knowledge of computing at all, then you might want to, extend it to about maybe 2 weeks, a week or two. That 1 or 2 week will give you that basics that you can build upon. And I like to advise people that when they acquire the skill, they should work with it, for a little bit. You can, let your friend know that, you're into cloud computing now. Maybe, your parents, your siblings, they have a business running. Try to profile something, to them that, will make you have that practical feel. And the good thing about cloud computing is that cloud computing is real time. It's for real. So it's not a scenario where you're trying to practice
It's not
in cloud
virtual.
Yes, it's not. So once you do some sort of practice with cloud computing, you're doing it real time, real life. So it's something that you can see for yourself real time.
All right, Olayinka, let me quickly ask you this question. Are you full-time into IT, or you just decided to venture into it for now?
I'm not full-time into IT.
So what are you studying? Are you still a student?
Yeah,
So what are you studying?
Political science.
What school?
LASU.
So why IT? Why CBT Center?
I'm interested into cybersecurity. So
okay.
Yeah. So after the BSc certificate, the plan is to go into cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. I think that is the hot cake in IT right now. Everyone is just going into cybersecurity. I have friends that are studying in the US, and almost all of them are into cybersecurity and all of that. Well, it's good to know. Mr. Kazim, before we leave, so do you want to wrap up on today's topic?
Yes, very well. Thank you very much. So today's topic is on the learning curve to Microsoft Azure. So for those who are looking to build a career in Microsoft Azure, the way for them to start. So, and I've said that, there are different ways to learn Azure. They can have a project at hand they want to do, so they learn on the job, so to speak. They can go through a self-study, way to acquire the skill, or they can put themselves into a formal learning settings, where they enroll for, these courses for them to do. And I've also mentioned the number of certification, the Azure certification that they can do once they've acquired the skills, or that they can also learn, go for these schools to learn, these programs, and then back it up with some of this certification. And I've mentioned some of the certifications to include the AZ 900, that's the Azure Fundamentals. I've talked about the AZ 103, that's the Azure Administrator. There is Developing Solution from Microsoft Azure for those who are interested in development, who are developers. And there are also certifications for the DevOps people, so on and so forth. So on my blog, so you can learn a little bit more, about this. I've put up, article on this particular topic, for today on my blog. And the URL, again, is kazim.com.ng.
All right, thank you so much, Kazim. And it's a wrap right here on the Tech Show on 95.7. Next week is another time to join Kazim on the Tech Show right here from 1:30 to 1:55 p.m. And of course, we'll be back to talk more right here on 95.7. But Kazim is signing out with Olayinka. Olayinka, thank you so much for coming today. Hopefully, we should be seeing more of you, because I'm really interested in that transition from political science to cybersecurity. Quite interesting. All right, Lagos, we'll be back.